Hey everyone, stay tuned as we talk about the legend of comics, Jack the King Kirby, on this, my 50th episode. You believe that? 50 episodes. Hey, welcome Comic Fam. This is Shelby of Shelby's Comics. I'm just going to talk a little bit about Jack Kirby. So, if you saw my earlier video, I unboxed a few of these magazines, the Kirby, the Kirby Collector, and I was thinking, well, I have several books that I can show off. I really like this one, The Demon. Very cool. I've got several Kirby books I can show off. Like I said, I'm not just a comic book collector, but, I like to consider myself a little bit of an aficionado, if I can't pronounce it, of comic book history. And I've got probably 10, 15 different books on comic book history. But during that time, I've assimilated quite a few books on Jack Kirby. So I thought I'd just show off a few of them, Jack and I. So the first is this really big book called The Best of Simon and Kirby. So if you don't know, Jack Kirby was born in the 1930s. I believe his name was Jacob Katzenberg, if I'm not mistaken. Was his real name, but he went by the pen name Jack Kirby. Oh, and if you want to know, read a little bit or a lot of bit about the history, definitely I would suggest this book that just came out last year by Tom Scioli called Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. Really great, in-depth history of Jack Kirby done in very accessible, cool-looking art style, taken from interviews and information and books. So it's definitely not a work of fiction. It tries to be as close to history, I think, as Tom could make it. I know Tom is a big historian of Jack Kirby. Move, Jack. But in the 1940s, Jack Kirby teamed up with Joe Simon, and they created characters such, of course, as Captain America, which is probably their most important character. Sorry if y'all hear Jack over there tearing up bubble wrap. But this reprints, of course, Captain America #1. A lot of their other work, the Vision, not the Vision that we think of. But yeah, and Kirby was a very prolific artist, meaning in the sense of output. People have estimated over his 50-plus career, if you were to take the amount of work that he had produced and divide that over every day, it comes to almost 1.3 pages of work every day, including like a Saturday and Sunday. So if you were to subtract, taking off weekends, then it was almost nearly 2 pages a day of art that he did over his 50-plus career. Jack Kirby did serve in the war, and to make sure that Captain America would not lag or someone else would have to take over the story, he actually produced a whole bunch of books in advance. So Captain America never missed a release while Kirby was at war. This is Marvel Visionaries, Volume 2, Jack Kirby. And this is where I probably come into learning about Jack Kirby based on my age, is his work with Devil Dinosaur, Machine Man, which I really liked. Like I said in my previous video, I probably didn't appreciate some of his work in Fantastic Four. I probably didn't appreciate his work as much then as I do now. Some more of his Fantastic Four work. But definitely now I appreciate it a whole lot more. Some work with Thor. And I guess one of the reasons why I didn't appreciate his work is he does have a very peculiar art style. One of the things, if you notice on like the heroes and stuff, there's no teeth. There's just, here's this picture of Loki, and there's no teeth. There's just like this solid white strip of where teeth would go. Same thing here with Thor. You know, there's no teeth. And the tips of the fingers tend to be very squared off compared to even some of his early work with the Simon stuff. And I'm actually going to show a little bit more of that here in a moment. But, you know, and he didn't do a lot of shading. That's another thing too, is if you notice a lot of his images, let me see if I can hold this up, it's not a lot of shading, it's just these thick lines to denote shading. So there's not a lot of hashing or anything, or the shading would be shown through the color, through the colorist. So you see this darker blue to denote the shadow versus the lighter blue. So, you know, even with this face here, you know, normal artists may have a lot of cross-hatching or something denoting shading, but Kirby just had those thick lines. And that's not to say that he didn't do some of the hatching. You can see here on this, he did. So, and I'm not really sure why the difference in style change over the years from this early stuff of, say, Captain America, but you can definitely see a lot of the same styles. Is there's not a lot of cross-hatching. There's these dark lines to denote shadow, but you know, it definitely doesn't have that kind of squared off edges. And from what I understand is he started adopting that style just for speed. Kirby is definitely known for his dynamic artwork, like a lot of his images. The characters are always moving, is what's said. So they're not just standing there in a static pose, but they're always moving. They're always in action. And as an example, Jack, as an example, this Captain America image, and even this demon image where the character is moving, they're just not statically standing there, say in some kind of pose. So that's one of the big hallmarks of Kirby, is that type of style. So here's another book, Kirby 5.0. This denotes, of course, the 50th anniversary of Jack Kirby. I bought this whenever I owned a store years ago, and is put out by Two Worlds Publishing. But, you know, it just gives a almost biography of Kirby's work. It's not individual stories or anything. It of course lists, I say of course, but you know, it lists Kirby's top 50 works as according to this magazine, and it lists chronologically through the years what he produced through each year of his 50-year career as of the publishing of this book. It also goes through Kirby's first 50 covers. And let's show some of these here. So some amazing work. And sorry, I'm not professional enough to like have, you know, a table set up with a camera to show these better. And then, of course, the iconic Fantastic Four #1. So, yeah, pretty interesting magazine. Does have a lot of his work. It shows some of the early pencils of Fantastic Four. Really bad photo stats. A really great Kirby Superman. Some color photos of him at home with his daughter Lisa. So yeah, really a neat book. Like I said, I've had that for years, about 30 years now. Another book I had gotten about the same time was the Comics Journal Library of Jack Kirby. And this has interviews, essays. It tells a little bit of the history of his feud with Marvel. So, of course, after World War II, Kirby did work for Atlas, which was the predecessor to Marvel, what we know as Marvel Comics, for Martin Goodwin. And he was producing mainly romance books, a few monster books that you saw some covers of, and Martin Goodwin's I think nephew, which is Stan Lee. And of course, he worked for Atlas, that changed into Marvel in 1961-62, and they started producing all the Marvel books that we know of today: Fantastic Four, Hulk, Thor, X-Men, Iron Man, etc. But then, of course, there's a falling out between Kirby and Marvel, and he went to DC for a short period of time. I say short, maybe it's 8 to 10 years, and then he did come back to Marvel for a time period. But this tells a little bit of the history of that feud between Kirby and Marvel, and some sketches that Kirby actually did during World War II. So I talked about he was a cartoonist for the war, and so while he did see some action, I apologize if I can't remember the exactities. You know, he was sent out to portray the war. And let me see. You know, and such life in his art. You see here. This city scene depicting all the different people and the characters. Of course, I love the Kirby mechanical part. But yeah, so here's some of the artwork, a letter he had written to his wife Rosalind. During the war. So yeah, it's very, very cool stuff. So next is, let's see, I'll show this one real quick. So this is a reprinting of Joe Simon and Jack Kirby's Fighting American. You know, they're probably most well known, of course, for Captain America, but this is another character they had produced together during that time period. They had also produced, I think, the Boy Commandos during that time, which was also a very popular strip. But yeah, so this reprints those stories. Next is two art books. So the first, and I bought this also about 30 years ago, The Art of Jack Kirby. Now, I don't know if you can still pick up some of these books or not. So there's an image of the Boy Commandos that I just mentioned. You can see I've had these books for a long time. They've taken in some moisture and released it over the years. And here's some images of the romance books. So very prolific in the amount of work that he did over the years. So much more than what we know of. Strange Worlds. Really beautiful image. And there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube that you can go and watch on the history of Jack Kirby and such. You know, I just wanted to bring a few things and show you for the 50th episode, you know, something different than what I've been doing. So yeah, that's pretty neat. All right, so this video is not horrible long. Here is a great book, Kirby, King of Comics. And what this book did is it shows a lot of Kirby's artwork, but it blows them up to this almost eye-hurting size, so you can see the details and such with the Kirby artwork, like this Fantastic Four. And there's also, and I have it somewhere, I couldn't find it, but you know, it's called Fantastic Four X or something, which has the whole issue #1 blown up panel by panel. And it's pretty amazing. Alright, and then the last thing, which I'm most proud of in my Kirby collection, and I'll explain it first before I show it to you, is back when I owned my store, and it's the late 80s, early 90s, I had went with some friends of mine to Atlanta to the very first Dragon Con. And that night they had an auction. I guess this was 89, 88 or 89. And that night, one of the nights, they had an auction. And I'd never been to an auction or anything. A friend of mine talked me into it. Said you can get some pretty good deals. You know, we didn't have a lot of money or anything. But one of the things I ended up buying that I really appreciate now is this book called Jack Kirby, Kirby's Heroes and Villains. And I'll see if I can get in the light so you can see it. You can find it. It's not terribly expensive. They've reprinted it since then. This is one of the first printings, which I don't think it really makes a difference. What had happened was a lot of the first printings, there's very few of them because they accidentally destroyed some of the cases. But what this book is a sketchbook of Kirby's that he gave to his wife Rosalind for their anniversary. And it's reprinted exactly. So you see some original sketches by Jack Kirby, like of Captain America. This is Balder the Brave from Thor. And so this is just an exact printing or reprinting of The Fly by Jack Kirby, which I believe is a Charlton character. Seraphan from the Forever People. But it's just an exact printing of his sketchbook. And some of the images are pretty light. I think they could have done a little bit better, but like I said, I think it must, like I said, it's an exact printing. There's Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. So, very interesting. And definitely, like I said, one of the prizes. It's not worth a lot of money, and you can definitely find it out there. Alright, the last thing I'm show is I mentioned Jack Kirby's daughter, Lisa. And after her mother died, Roz, she had the duty of cleaning out the house and, of course, finding a lot of her father's art and everything. And a longtime friend was helping out. Michael Thibodeau was helping out. And they had collaborated for a number of years. And what they did is they took one of Kirby's ideas for character and story and actually published it. So they published what's called Jack Kirby's Galactic Bounty Hunters. And so this is not art by Jack Kirby, but it's definitely done in the style or close to the style of Jack Kirby. But it's a complete story. So it's done in the style of Jack Kirby, but it's a complete story that takes some of these characters that he had created and put them together. So definitely something. It's kind of like a little love letter to her father that Lisa Kirby did. And yeah, so pretty neat little volume there. So maybe try to pick that up if you can. So that's it for me. I just wanted to, this is my 50th episode that I've put out here on YouTube in the past couple of months, and it's been really fun, and I really appreciate all the love and support and viewers that have followed me along the way and supported me. I think 50 episodes is definitely a milestone. It's something, I used to worry about doing one episode or, but I just kept at it, and yeah, hopefully soon we'll be at 100 episodes, and we'll just keep going. But hey, remember, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notifications bell if you want to know when I drop a video. I drop a couple of videos a week, and if there's anything special you'd like to see or talk about one of these days, I will do a tour of the toy room here. There's still junk on the floor, so it's hard for me to walk around and really show everything off. But and tell me, what your favorite Jack Kirby work is down below in the comments. If you've got some stories to share about Jack Kirby, definitely let me know. And remember, peace, love, and comics, and I will check y'all out later. Bye.